Shalom, shalom. Giving all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh, Shabbat, Shabbat, Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS, the root and teach word in the scriptures. Salutations to the Akim that are doing this work in truth and faith and all sincerity. Today's lesson is basically going to be about the CBDC and how things are rapidly speeding according to prophecy. So I'm going to let this play for a while, and Lord willing, I'll follow up with a few scriptures.
Central bank digital currency. One CBDC to rule them all, and it is just as bad as you might imagine. This blueprint is primarily to incorporate cross-border payments for individual CBDCs across the world. Now, obviously, the real reasons why they want to push something like this and the stated reasons for pushing something like this are going to be very different. Reading between the lines, we can find that it's really about maintaining control over the flow of money. However, one of the stated reasons is because there's been a rising interest in crypto assets, which is why many monetary policy institutions like central banks have been exploring CBDCs. So let me tell you a little bit of a story to illustrate what's going on here. Imagine you have a big boat out in the middle of the ocean, and this is a sovereign boat. It is not governed by any nation, not owned by any nation. On this boat, there is no government, just individual property rights. And imagine that this boat is attracting many people. Many people are moving there part-time, and some people are moving there even full-time. Fed up with all the additional burdens of large governments like taxes and regulations, people are just saying, you know what, I'm going to move to this boat where there are no governments. Now, at this point, governments start to realize the competition, and they start to see, hey, there's people moving on to this boat, and there are more and more boats springing up just like that boat that people are also moving to. There's a big interest in boats like this. The governments do two things. Number one, they try and destroy as many of these boats as possible with outright attacks. The other thing that they try and do is launch their own boats. Now, these government boats are exactly the same as nations. They have all the same rules, the regulations, the taxes, the laws that the nation does on land, because these boats are owned by the government. And then they go out to the public and they say, hey, because everybody's so interested in moving to boats, we have made our own boats for you to move to. Obviously, this entirely misses the point of why people were interested in moving to the boats in the first place. It was because of the freedom, because of the lack of government. There is no interest in moving just to a boat by itself. It was the fact that it didn't have the government attached to it. And that is this crypto CBDC thing in a nutshell. The very reason people were interested in using cryptocurrencies, and especially Bitcoin, is to stop using government money. Government money is slow. It tracks you. All the KYC laws, the AML laws, the Patriot Act, the inefficiencies, the censorship of payments, being treated like a criminal just for wanting to use your money because you wanted to withdraw too much or send too much in one day, wanting to be able to send money halfway around the world for virtually no cost. These are the things that attracted people from government money to private money. Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies. And yet governments are shocked when populations like Nigerians, who are very interested in using Bitcoin and other cryptocurrency, reject CBDCs. They simply don't understand the reason why people are interested in them in the first place. It's to get away from government money. Nobody is interested in a government CBDC except the government. And when we read between the lines, we'll find out exactly why they are so interested in this. New platforms for cross-border CBDCs would be more efficient and more safe while still ensuring that countries can impose their compliance checks and capital controls. So the big issue here is that, we have CBDCs that are being rolled out in countries, and that allows a virtually unlimited amount of tyranny, financially speaking, that a government can impose on its people. But you still have the sticky issue then of what happens when money comes in and out of the country. If you don't have agreement on the platform being used and interoperability between countries' CBDCs, then that still allows for some areas you can't control. And since a government's entire purpose is to increase its own power and control, that would be the last thing a government would want. Now, they say that the cost, sluggishness, and opacity of cross-border payment payments comes from limited infrastructure, and that their blueprint for the new platform would be more efficient and safer. It would only be more efficient than current government money, not better than the current free market alternatives. Governments would keep the right to limit their citizens' transactions in foreign currency and to impose anti-money laundering checks. This would allow you, if you are abusing your currency, your CBDC in your own local country, and people start to say, hey, we want to get out of this currency and into a neighboring country's money that is stronger because they're not abusing it, it would allow them to much easier implement capital controls, financial repression to stop that flight of wealth. Again, it's basically the government just saying, hey, we're going to steal from you and we're going to block all the exits so you can't stop us from stealing from you. But the entity that gets to control these cross-border payments is going to have a ton of power, obviously, because instead of just controlling one nation's payments, you exert influence over the entire world's payments. And that's why there's a rush right now to develop this cross-border platform. And they are not the first at the IMF to do this. Recently, SWIFT and the Bank of International Settlements has also tried to pioneer an inter-country global payments CBDC platform. And it's very clear they are all aware that it's not actually necessary from the standpoint of, will people be able to pay each other? That's not the concern here. The concern here is who is going to have the power and who's going to have the control. They clearly stated that failure to agree on a common platform would create a vacuum that would be filled by cryptocurrencies. Basically, if we don't exert our tyranny over the system, the free market will figure out a solution on its own. That solution will probably be better for the people, but worse for us who want the control. They went on to say that if countries develop central bank digital currencies only for domestic deployment, we are underutilizing their capacity. That is true, 100%, because a central bank digital currency is a tool for financial tyranny. And if you only use financial tyranny over your own nation, you are underutilizing the capacity of that tool. Much better to use that tool for financial tyranny over the entire world. Then you are fully utilizing that tool for financial tyranny. They also note that promoting a cross-border platform for CBDCs would help with the cost of money transfers for remittances sending money cross-border, which stands at 6.3% right now, totaling $44 billion annually. Except for the fact that the free market has already solved this solution. If you look at Bitcoin using the Lightning Network, you can send money basically for free, and it's instant. Governments all around the world are really ramping up their push for central bank digital currencies. Already there are 114 central banks that are at some stage of developing their CBDC, and there are already about 10 countries that are, quote, crossed the finish line already. It then stated that the last thing they would want is further economic fragmentation, which would be avoided by having an interoperable central bank digital currency platform. Essentially, with any complex system, which an economy certainly is a complex system governed by complexity dynamics, what you have is one that works best for the individual nodes in the system if the rules are decentralized. It is a bottom-up structure. Those are going to be the ones that are going to be the strongest, healthiest, and longest lasting, and most able to grow. But they are also going to be the least able to be controlled. And so the more centralization you can impose on a system like that, the more you can control it and dictate what happens. The only problem with that is that it makes it more and more unstable over time and prone to collapse. Essentially, regarding economics, freedom is what causes wealth growth, and control is what causes government growth. And these two are at odds with each other. I think the most terrifying part about this is that they said, we will pursue this relentlessly together. Anytime a government agency or a government or an organization like the IMF is willing to work relentlessly on something, you know it's only because it's going to increase their power. They're not doing it for you. They're not doing it for the little guy. They're doing it for themselves. And in an ironic twist, this happens at a time right when Hong Kong is actually increasing its friendliness to decentralization and cryptocurrencies, with a push by Hong Kong to let crypto firms get banking. At the end of the day, it looks like it's more and more likely that a CBDC in your country, and maybe even a global CBDC to govern all CBDCs, will be a likely possibility in the future, which means if there are things that you want to buy or places you want to send your money to that you think that governments may not want you to do in the future, may be a good idea to do that now rather than waiting until then. And if you'd like to learn all about how I invest, how I do fundamental analysis, how I hedge with options, how I allocate my portfolio, and much more, check out Heresy Financial University, my membership program where you get unlimited access to every single course, the entire training library, and every future course that I launch. Link is in the description below. As always, thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.
Tired of losing money in the stock market? Have you followed a hot stock pick you heard about online only for it to not pan out? Are you sick of the talking heads on cable news shouting out half-baked stock picks? It's time to stop listening to the noise and take charge of your financial investments. Start and end your research with MarketBeat. MarketBeat was created with individual investors like you in mind. It's your personalized research platform for financial data, news, and analysis. Whether you're an experienced investor or just starting out, MarketBeat is the research platform that you need to stay ahead of the curve. You'll gain access to real-time stock quotes, analyst recommendations, breaking news alerts, and much more to help you make informed financial decisions. You know the saying, the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next best time is right now. It's the same thing with investing. So don't wait. Join the millions of savvy investors who trust MarketBeat to help them build their wealth with confidence. MarketBeat, your trusted source for stock market news and analysis.